Greetings, friends and neighbors. It's Randy Jimmy James Bowles with his one and only Cat Girl, the Maine Coon, broadcasting from Seattle, Washington, with a story about animals for you, and not just any animals. Squirrels and cat girls. Yes, and this is 15 pounds of fighting mad Maine Coon. And I'm just hoping I can get through this take because I don't think she's going to let me pick her up again to try it over again. In fact, you can see she's starting to wrestle away from me now. So I do have a picture of her on the wall just in case this doesn't work out. Then you'll get to see the picture on the wall instead of the actual cat girl. That's Katgrrl for girl. Ooh, there she goes. All right. This is another cat girl story about one of her great adventures. And well, one of my adventures too, but it wasn't so great. Now, people always say that I've got quite a memory. They say, Randy, your memory's phenomenal. How do you remember back to like 1951? Well, the wonderful thing about my memory is that it also helps me stay sane by forgetting certain things that have happened. And you know, I don't remember if a squirrel bit me on this thumb or this thumb because, well, my mind's kind of blanked that out for me so that I don't have to relive it all the time. But one of these thumbs was severely bitten by a squirrel, and that's what this story is about. And I'm going to read it to you. My face is going to get a little bit bigger, and once again, as always, you're welcome to close your eyes. Now, I'm going to do a little mannerism every once in a while during the story. Like whenever I say something exciting, I'm going to go like this. The real reason is because I wanted to wear these glasses, and they fall off my nose. So if you see me going like that, just think of it as an endearing mannerism that I'm doing to illustrate the story. I'm a human being just like you. Are you ready for the story? You probably are. So let's get to it right now. The name of it is Stop Biting, Rocky, or Don't Hand Feed a Wild Squirrel. I used one cuss word in this story, but I think you'll agree that I had a right to, considering what I went through. And it's not a really bad word. My apartment manager recently gave me a new, updated lease to sign, which was fine. I skimmed it, initialed every page, and signed where indicated on page 11. But attached to the lease was a set of house rules. Odd because here I am, 74 years old, and pretty much housebroken. I don't cause a whole lot of trouble or make any kind of a ruckus these days. I just sit around wishing I could. However, I thought just for fun I might look at the 2 pages of rules to see if I could learn something. Well, guess what rule number 7 was? Do not feed any wild animals which may congregate in the yard. It can only lead to problems for you and your fellow tenants. Sadly for me, whoever wrote that turned out to be correct. I learned the hard way that feeding wild animals can cause big problems. Those who know me are aware that my heart has been captured by a small band of squirrels which lives outside the window of my little senior citizen pad in the big city of Seattle, Washington. For the past years, I've enjoyed feeding the little critters and getting to know them. And my huge cat girl, gets a big kick out of watching their antics. Sometimes when she sees them out there, she paws the window like crazy in an attempt to do them some serious harm. But she can't knock down the glass which separates her from them. The squirrels are safe. You know what? All this time I was worried about the squirrel's safety when I should have actually been worried about mine. There's several of the little gray squirrels who hang out, play, and feed on the patch of ground outside my window. And I have a favorite one, the petite girl squirrel, whom I call Winkle. She's very sweet, actually. When I give her a walnut or an almond, she makes a cute little thank you sound. Until I heard her make the sound, I didn't know squirrels could talk. She tends to get more nuts than the other squirrels. Winkle has always been very gentle with me, sociable, you might say. She politely takes the nut right out of my fingers, says thank you, and sits there on the windowsill eating it, or at least chewing it up and stuffing it into her cheeks. Winkle has a boyfriend, or husband. I call him Rocky. And now you know how Winkle got her name. I couldn't call her Bullwinkle. She's a girl squirrel. So I call her Winkle. And yes, it's easy to tell a boy from a girl. For their size, the boys are rather, shall we say, blessed. Anyway, on a beautiful early fall day, I was feeding Rocky through the hole in the window screen, which meant that Mr. Raccoon made the hole one night when he was trying to kill Cat Girl. He couldn't get to her. She was ready to fight to the death if he did, but he did manage to tear a small hole in the screen, and I used that hole for squirrel feeding. This time Rocky decided to change up the routine by crawling in through the hole as far as he could, which was almost all the way. And instead of taking the tempting California almond from my fingers, which I innocently offered him, he decided to target my actual fingers. He bit down on the thumb and index finger of, it says in my story, my right hand. And he simply would not let go. He was just grinding away like some kind of monster in a horror movie. When I saw all the blood I was losing, and when I felt his scalpel-like incisors go through my flesh like the proverbial butter, my dinosaur brain kicked in, saying, "The little bastard is going to kill you if you don't act fast." So I pulled away from Rocky just as quickly and as hard as I could. And you know what happened? I pulled him into my apartment. Yes, and he was hanging on, ready for whatever came next. Well, I started swinging my arm around and around, trying to get the little monster to let go. That was all I could think of to do at the time. Finally, he unclamped and went sailing across the room. But not to worry. He landed on my nice, soft couch, and he immediately scampered away out of sight. I stood in the living room bleeding all over the place, in shock and in pain. I was also struck by the thought that I had a wild animal loose in my apartment, and that didn't help things at all. I finally calmed down, went into the bathroom, sat on the toilet, and wrapped Kleenex around my finger while holding my hand over the sink. It took about 15 minutes for the bleeding to subside. When it finally lessened, I poured hydrogen peroxide all over the wounds. And then I put about a half a box of Band-Aids on my thumb and finger. Boy, howdy did it hurt. I remained in shock for a good hour. It's hard to imagine even now how such a little animal, which probably doesn't even weigh a pound, could wreak such havoc on a big old guy like me. Well, I spent the rest of the afternoon and that evening searching for Rocky, and I couldn't find him. In fact, I never found him. I left the window open for a couple of days in case he wanted to try to go through the hole in the screen and get back to where he once belonged, as has been said. But nope, I never found Rocky. I have no idea what became of him. Maybe he's hiding under my bed. And one of these nights he's going to emerge and bite my nose right off my face. But I will say this, I know my cat girl pretty well. I've been living with her for years. And I'm thinking she's looking a little plumper these days. Now here's a couple notes for you. No, I don't hand feed the squirrels anymore. Not even Winkle. I toss about an ounce of nuts through the hole once a day, and I let the little censored fight over them. And yes, I'm breaking rule number 7. And no, in spite of all the advice I received from Facebook friends, I didn't go to the doctor for a rabies or tetanus shot. I may be a sensitive new age guy, but I'm still a guy. It's been a month. My jaw finally feels like it's starting to loosen up a little. And my fear of water seems to be diminishing somewhat. And now, if you'll excuse me, it's time to go howl at the moon.